Chapter 1, Lesson 2, Solving Multi-Step Equations. We're building on where we left off with our simple equations, where we used one step in order to find the solution. Let's go ahead and take a look at what it says about solving multi-step equations. It states, to solve multi-step equations, use inverse operations to isolate the variable. The word inverse, for us, just know we're talking about opposite, because it's going to help us undo what happened to x. Over on the right, I have included the 5 steps that we look at when solving multi-step equations. These steps are not necessarily in any sort of specific order, but I will say the following. First, the first 2 steps here are all about simplifying the equation so that we can start moving things so that the x is on one side and every other value is on the opposite side of x. We definitely have to simplify first, but not every equation requires the simplifying. Let's take a look at the example on the left and see what we can do. A strategy we could use is we could see what exactly is happening with the x. Well, we have 3 times x plus 15 equals 24. The purpose behind this is, in order for us to undo everything and find the x, we need to work backwards what has occurred. If we look at everything that happened to x, first it was the 3 times, and then second it was the plus 15. So we're going to start by removing the plus 15. Then we'll go and look at the 3 times. If you compare this with our steps, for this one there are no parentheses and there are no like terms to combine. So we're starting to see that we don't need to simplify. X is only on the left. So we already have it to where all the variable terms are on one side of the equal sign. So we only need 2 steps here. We need to move the constants to the other side, then get rid of the coefficient. So same order I said. First, they multiplied by 3. Then they added 15. We are going to go backwards. So first, in order to undo what happened to x, we're going to look at the plus 15. The opposite is to subtract 15 And we make sure that we do that on both sides to keep the equation an actual equation, where the left and the right are equal. We bring down our 3x, because that's the only thing left on that side, equals, and then we do 24 minus 15. We're still trying to get the x all by itself. So what is still happening to the x? It says 3 times x, and to undo multiplication, we divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1x, but we don't write the 1 in front. And then 9 divided by 3 is 3. That was a two-step equation. Most two-step equations are going to be using these steps. Just to point that out. Most. Might not be all. It depends on the simplifying that has occurred. Let's move on and take a look at multi-step, where we will have to simplify before we move on. Let's take a look at what's happening in this multi-step equation. We have 8 times x minus 6 times x minus 25. If I go back to the 5 steps I had written down, the first step, the distribute step, we only need that if there are parentheses. There are no parentheses, so now I can look and see, can I combine like terms? I can. The 8x and the negative 5x can be combined, so that's where we're going to start. Combine like terms. It means we have to actually add together 8x and negative 6x. And 8 plus negative 6 will result in 2x. So now the 8x and the negative 6x are now 2x. I'm going to carry down all of the pieces that did not change. We have simplified the equation. Now we can follow through with our steps for solving the equation. Step 3 would ask, does the x appear on both sides? It does not, so we are going to skip that step and take a look at step 4. The x, we have 2 times x minus 25. So we need to take that in reverse order and start with the minus 25. The opposite would be to add 25 on each side of the equal sign. So I will add 25 and add 25. Negative 25 plus 25 is 0. So my 2x is what it remains. And I have negative 35 plus 25. Negative 35 plus 25 is negative 10. We've got one more step because x is still not isolated. The goal is to isolate x, so x needs to be all by itself. I have left 2 times x, and since it's times, it's multiplication, ask yourself, how do you undo multiplication? The opposite is to divide by 2. So we'll divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1x. And negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So this was an example where we had to simplify the equation before we were allowed to solve the equation. We will take a look at one more question, and then I will give you a couple that you can try on your own. So for our last example, this is still a multi-step equation. Only we are going to add in that first step of distribute. Now, I know I need to distribute because of the parentheses. That is your key. In order for us to distribute, we take the 2, we do 2 times 1, which is 2, and then 2 times the negative 5x, which is negative 10x. So for this first step, 2 times 1 again is 2. 2 times negative 5x is negative 10x. And I have not done anything with the plus 4 or the negative 8, so I carry them down. This creates a new yet equivalent equation to our original. Let's see about a second step here. Now, I notice we have like terms. These like terms are going to exist on the same side of the equal sign. So, imagine, if you would, if we split this in 2, on the left side, I have the like terms of the 2 and the positive 4. So I need to add them together to combine like terms. Two plus the positive 4 gives me 6. So those two, the 2 and the 4, come out to be a positive 6. The negative 10x, it's still a negative 10x. So it stays part of my equation. And then that all equals negative 8. We've almost solved the equation. We do need to still get x isolated, but we have simplified the equation and can proceed to our solving steps. For step 3, x is already on one side of the equal sign, so I will move beyond that. And now we can take a look at, do we have any constant numbers that we can add or subtract? Once again, look at what's happening to x. We have negative 10 times x, and then they added a 6 to it. We got to work that backwards. So instead of the plus 6, we are going to subtract 6 on both sides. Because what we do on one side of the equal sign, we must do to the other. Over on the left, I'm left with negative 10x. And I need to do negative 8 minus 6. I will get negative 14. And now I can finish this off. It says negative 10 times x. So our final step will be to divide by the negative 10. I'm left with 1x equals, now let's wait a second. A negative divided by a negative is positive, and it's 14 over 10. We must reduce all fractions, and I noticed they're both even numbers. So we will divide the numerator and the denominator by 2 and find the result of 7 over 5. Let's take a look at 2 of them for you to try on your own. First, solve 1/2 x minus 9 equals negative 25. And then solve 10 equals 3n plus 20 minus n. Pause the video, try those out, and then come back and see what the results are. In the first question for you to try, it says 1/2 times x minus 9. So work that backwards. Starting with the minus 9, we add 9 to both sides. I'm left with 1/2 x on the left. And then negative 25 plus 9 gives you negative 16. And recall, when we have a fraction as our coefficient, the 1/2 times x, you must multiply both sides of the equation with the reciprocal, which is 2/1. On the left, all that remains is 1x. And then on the right, negative 16 times 2/1 would give you negative 32/1, or just negative 32. On the right, we need to simplify before we can solve. One thing I want to point out is that the equation ends with a negative n. Well, that's a negative 1n. Over there on the left side, I have this 3n and this negative 1n. We can combine those together. So we'll add together the 3 and the negative 1, giving me 2n. And I still have my plus 20 and equals 10. In our goal to get n by itself, we're at the step where we can start solving. 2 times n plus 20, I'm looking at the order of what happened to n. The last thing that happened is the plus 20, so I will begin by undoing plus 20 by subtracting 20 on each side. Over here on the right, the 2n is left over. And I need to figure out 10 minus 20. I still have left that this says 2 times n. So to finish this problem, I'll divide each side by 2. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. If you need any help or guidance with this, pause the video and go back and rewatch any part you might need help with.